I'm Tom and you're watching Bullets, Brass and Ballistics. Today I thought we'd talk about a slightly controversial topic, and that's lead-free ammunition. Some of you may or may not be aware that the UK is imposing a lead ban across pretty much all ammunition. There are a few exceptions, which at the moment is set to come into force in 2029 with a 3-year transition period starting in 2026. So like it or not, we will all, on current trajectory, excuse my pun, be lead-free as of 2029. The exceptions, which are important because I have heard this from quite a few people, ranges where they can recover the lead. You'll still be able to use traditional lead core ammunition. Airgun pellets, caliber smaller than .243, you can still use lead core ammunition. But other than that, if it's got more than 1% lead, it's out. So pretty much our hunting will all be lead free from 2029 if the legislation gets passed. Lead-free ammo then, and let's focus on rifle here. Loads of you guys are already using it, and that's absolutely brilliant. And I know a lot of game dealers insist on monolithic solids, copper bullets, call it what you will, already. And yeah, great. But I've had loads of people ask me when they've encountered problems. And so let's cover off a couple of the classic common errors people make. Bit of background. The main difference between a monolithic bullet or a lead-free bullet or a copper bullet is that obviously they don't have a lead core and therefore they have a lower sectional density. Now, sectional density is a measurement of basically mass divided by area. And SD is important for retaining energy, and that's why conventional bullets have a lead core with a copper jacket around them. Basically, monolithic or copper bullets are purely and simply made out of that same similar, what we actually call a gilding material. Some manufacturers use 100% copper, most use a gilding copper, which is around about 95% copper, 5% zinc. It's technical, it doesn't really matter. And then most manufacturers put some form of either tip to aid expansion or actual cuts into the projectile itself so that it starts forming along those lines. Classic example of that is Barnes. You get the petal effect, which I'm pretty sure most of you will be familiar with, but I'll put some pictures in anyway. But the classic error I see is, most recent guy came to me, he said, I've gone across to lead-free because the game dealer won't buy deer off me unless they're shot with copper. And I said, okay, fine. He said, but I'm really, really struggling. They're really hard and they're over-penetrating. And I said, right, what are you using? And he said, well, I just matched my, and he hand loads. He said, I matched, my good tried and trusted 150 grain lead cores. And I said, what, you're shooting 150 grain coppers? And he went, yeah. And I said, well, there's your problem. Because of that lower sectional density, we can make up for that with velocity. And to make up velocity, the lighter we go, the faster we can drive the bullet. But also because of that lower sectional density, to get the weight in the first place, we've discussed in previous videos, you can't go wider. You are restricted to the diameter of that caliber. And so you've got to go longer. And so to get a heavy lead-free projectile, it's going to be significantly longer than a conventional lead core of the same weight. So my advice regarding lead-free would always be drop at least one weight group, if not two. So for example, if you conventionally shoot 150 grain lead core projectile in, say, 308, doesn't really matter, drop down to 130 or even 120 grain lead free. You're going to gain that velocity, and also your barrel twist, if you're on a standard 1 in 10, say in a 308, will stabilise those lighter lead-free bullets just fine. And that goes across the board. It doesn't really matter what you're shooting. Interestingly, and I know in a previous video we've talked about twist rate and barrel length and you know, matching your projectiles. Well, lead-free throws in another conundrum. So yeah, I've got lots of examples here, but one of my favourites, not my favourite, but one of my favourite, is the Barnes. Now this again is in 6mm, and these are the LRX. So these are designed for long range shooting. However, again, because of that loss of sectional density, we'll talk about shooting lead-free at long range. But these are a 6mm, 95 grain LRX boat-tail bullet, and they're 95 grains, and most, not all, most factory standard twist 243s, for example, won't stabilise them very well. Purely and simply because that 95 grain bullet is significantly longer than a conventional 95 grain bullet. And in previous videos, we've discussed that with 243, with a factory 1 in 10 twist, 9,500 grains is, you're getting to that upward limit. So just bear that in mind. But because of, you know, talking about velocity, we don't necessarily need to use 95 grain in, say, a 243. Just an example. And, you know, you can go all the way down to 22 caliber and go lead-free. But again, be aware, these are 62 grain. So if you're on a 1 in 12 twist in a conventional 223 factory rifle, you might struggle to stabilise these, but they go down to 45 grain. So there will be something that fits in. It's not really a big bother. All the major manufacturers now, bullet manufacturers, make lead-free ammunition. Nosler, they do their E-tip or expansion tip, and very good they are. Hornady are pretty much fixed now with their CX line. And these two are very, very similar. I do find them quite tough. I do find, and this is personally, that, you know, velocity is king with those things. They do want to be driven fast to get that expansion. Generally, with copper bullets, penetration is not a problem. Very seldom do you find a copper projectile still inside the game animal. Even ballistics gel, I've done some testing and it's actually quite hard to stop some of them. But, you know, bear those things in mind. Go lighter than you would conventionally with a lead core bullet and get that velocity up, and they'll do absolutely fine. As I've said, pretty much all the major bullet manufacturers now are offering lead-free projectiles, and most ammunition manufacturers are offering lead-free factory ammunition. For example, I've got a box here of Hornady Outfitter in 6.5 PRC, which is loaded with 130 grain CX. So remember I said about stepping down 1 or 2 bullet weights with copper. Traditionally in the 6.5 PRC, I'd be shooting 143 grain or 156 grain. So coming down to 130 makes absolute sense. You know, you've really got to get that every last bit of velocity that you can. You know, they look like a conventional projectile, but as I say, they most certainly ain't. So I said Barnes are one of my favourite, but not my favourite. My favourite are Utreefield Sports, and designed and made in the good old UK, so we can get all patriotic too. These are just fantastic, and they differ a little bit from your standard sort of Barnes and your E-tip and your CX, in that these aren't designed to petal. These are designed for the front, and I'll put some pictures in. These are designed for the front section of the bullet to come apart, to fragment like a conventional bullet. And then maintain a solid shank to keep on driving. Big shout out, my mate Rich, who makes these absolutely phenomenal. I urge, if you hand load and you haven't yet, get on the Utree website, order some up. They ain't cheap, but copper ain't cheap. You know, it's but you're buying British, and they really are a fantastic bit of gear. And if you do want to shoot longer range, Rich doesn't just make bullets. He's a lifelong shooter, a very, very, very good shooter. And we actually shoot competitions, and we shoot out to 880 yards with his bullets. And obviously, those of you in the know will know 880 yards is half a mile. As I said earlier, copper at range becomes difficult because you just don't have that sectional density. So you lose, everybody knows basic physics, you know, a weightier object with good stability can keep trundling along a bit better. Copper changes drastically as it starts to lose velocity, and it does get harder to make hits past certain ranges. But if you're a target shooter, don't panic, because if you're shooting on a recognised, verified range that has the ability to clear the lead projectiles from the backstop, then you can keep on using lead core ammo. But if you use the same rifle for deer, you're going to have a copper load, I'm afraid. So in summary, you know, like it or not, at some point we're going to have to go lead free. Shotgun shooting, that's going to go sooner rather than later, and us rifle aficionados are going to follow suit. But the great thing is that you know, the state of California in the good old US of A, and I've mentioned in previous videos, you know, we get sloppy seconds from the American firearms industry. What they think is good, we have to think is good, because you know, that's all we get. They've gone lead free, they're coping, and it also drives the bullet manufacturers to design, perpetually develop and design the best copper projectiles that they can, and you know, they are. I mentioned about good old Utree bullets and the fact that they're not the cheapest. Copper generally isn't cheap. You know, I know this is 6.5 PRC, so it's not magnum. But you know, this stuff in the UK, I think is retailing for 80 quid for a box of 20. I mean, historically, I've bought 375 Holland ammo cheaper than that. But if you hand load, you can get that price down, obviously. And in future videos, we'll cover that off as well. But so one last little thing, I think, you know, I like a good looking projectile. I like a good looking round of ammunition, and look good, shoot good. Again, because I'm shameless. Oh, by the way, I pay for my Utree bullets. I don't get them for nothing. That's a good looking bit of kit, and accuracy wise, they are phenomenal. They are match grade accurate. Getting them to shoot easy is easy. And inside of 400 yards, you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, the difference of that sectional density, the sectional density and velocity makes. You know, they will work brilliantly. And there's loads of documentary evidence out to sort of 400 on Live Quarry that they get the job done. So, to summarise, if you hand load, or if you're buying factory, drop down a weight group or two. So if you standardised or as standard shoot a 150 grain load, drop down to 130 or even 120. It makes all the difference. As I say, copper bullets have a reputation for being tough, but generally it's because they're impacting at a lower velocity than optimum for expansion. So drive them fast, drive them hard, and they'll work all day long.